Mr. Castor didn't even try. That was, I guess you could experience that as part of his charm. The other one came in hot, ended up crying, and said a lot of things that didn't add up in the middle. What was your read of the Trump defense?
Well, I think they switched orders, as I understand it, so that Castor went first to try to blunt some of the emotional impact that Jamie Raskin's concluding presentation had. I don't really see how that was helpful to his client, but there wasn't a ton of substance that he offered, particularly on the topic of the issue at hand, the jurisdictional constitutional issue. And then when Bruce Schoen got up there, he, I think, suffered a little bit just from presentation. I mean, he was reading very quickly. It was very hard to follow. And it took him a long time to get to the constitutional argument that was at issue today. But he, as far as I could tell, did not address two central parts of the impeachment manager's argument. The first is he didn't even address the disqualification clause in the Constitution. And the second is he didn't address the fact that Donald Trump was impeached by the House while he was in office. There was a parade of horribles of how this is all partisan and this is going to be terrible because when things flip, the Republicans will just reach back and impeach Eric Holder and all this stuff. But that's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with someone who was impeached while in office, and they did not address that. But as we suspected, you know, the quality of the legal argument was really incidental to the outcome of this vote. And it is possible that there may be some who don't think that this is constitutional, but given that the Senate has now determined that it is and rejected the motion to dismiss by a majority vote, they could follow their duty and actually consider the merits of the charge. That's what you would have to do in a courtroom. And many people would argue that's what the senators should do now. They should not be able to use this argument, a legal argument, in support of a factual determination that he was acquitted. But because this is a Senate trial and it's not a courtroom, there are no rules governing what they can and cannot consider, as there would be in a courtroom.
Also watching with us is Michael Steele, former chair of the Republican National Committee. Michael, I'm curious as to what you make of listening to those 44 votes saying, in effect, now this constitutional argument, we're not buying it, after no one really argued that Donald Trump was innocent. Oh, Michael, hit your mute.
Yep. Okay. There we go. Yeah. The arguments did not make any sense to a lot of those Republicans who weren't paying attention, and that unfortunately was manifested in that vote. It is an unfortunate truth that, as Nicole rightly noted, they don't care. They've made up their mind. Josh Hawley was up in the gallery, wasn't on the floor paying attention as he should. Others were, having conversations. So the reality of it is the country sees this, and here we are again. But I don't think it changes ultimately the price that the party will pay for January 6th. Everything else that had come before, you could make a case, you could argue politics, you can say whatever, but this was so searing for a lot of people. And the way Jamie laid it out in those first 13 minutes to kind of walk us through and to see the relative comparison in time, the crowd storming and what was going on the floor, the movements inside the chamber. All of that had a powerful impact. And the fact that those senators, Republican senators, 44 of them, sat there unfazed, unmoved by that. I hope Dan is right. I hope that on the other side of this, they are moved to consider honestly conviction. But I think we have a precursor of the vote that we may see when this is all over, and that's unfortunate.
You know, Claire, I'm struck by what Michael Steele is saying, that the news, if you're sort of coming home at the end of the day and you've heard this or you've caught this, what you will see is a snippet of that 13-minute video and perhaps some of Jamie Raskin talking about having his daughter on the floor of the chamber and her saying, I don't want to come back to the Capitol. And if you've got kids that care about government or politics as young as 9 or 10 years old, I don't know that you want them to go intern in a Capitol where 44 senators aren't in favor of holding a person responsible or accountable for inciting an attack there.
And if you really look at this,
one of the most
Nicole,
powerful I've ever seen.
Sorry, Claire, I think we're listening to Chuck Schumer.
It was both erudite and touching. It really got to your heart.
Do you have any comments on the Trump leadership?
He's gone. Claire, go ahead. I'm sorry.
For my friend Chuck Schumer, not a problem. What I was going to say that it is really ironic in so many ways, Mitch McConnell's vote particularly, as it relates to this procedural question, because the only reason this trial did not occur while the president was still in office, Mitch McConnell.
Right.
That's it. I mean, he was impeached when he was in office. The trial could have occurred immediately. They were ready. They wanted to do the trial immediately. And Mitch McConnell said no. So here he is voting because he caused this to happen. And, you know, the president's lawyers, as Daniel pointed out, never even addressed either the historical precedents for holding someone out of office accountable under these circumstances, or the big elephant in the room. That is, he was impeached while in office, and the trial was purposely delayed for partisan reasons, so these senators would have an excuse. Yeah. I mean, he wanted to rage on about partisanship. The whole reason this was delayed was partisanship. So it really is unfortunate that that many senators went along with the fig leaf. But now we get to the meat of the matter tomorrow, and it will be, I think, become even harder and harder for them to look at themselves in the mirror and feel proud of the position they've taken.
Claire, the other elephant in the room, obviously. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brian. Bring Ari in.
No, please continue. Please continue.
Claire, I just wanted to, we haven't mentioned it yet, but the other elephant in the room was the Trump lawyer invoking the word disenfranchisement. Donald Trump sought to disenfranchise voters. He sought to do it on a telephone call, the tape of which was released. It's part of what he was impeached for by Democrats and Republicans. This was so Trumpian in its projection. Yeah, the irony has so many layers. The cake you referred to earlier with 3 layers, this cake would be so tall it would topple over. The layers of irony. The only reason that we are here is because the president wanted to disenfranchise the voters of this country by, in fact, lying about the election itself. So this is really, I mean, I could go on and on about all of the ironic arguments that were made, particularly by the second lawyer, because the first lawyer, I mean, I don't think his phone's going to be ringing, I got to tell you the truth.
Let's go there with one of our of-counsel lawyers, and that's Ari Melber. Ari, what did you make of the lawyering you saw today?
Well, Brian, I want to be as diplomatic as possible. They're dealing with the hand they have, and they have a tough hand to try to defend Donald Trump here. Having said that, it often seemed like Mr. Castor had taken the vacancy left by Rudy Giuliani in creating real-life My Cousin Vinny moments, not to take anything away from the seriousness of the task at hand, but it was bumbling and nonsensical. At times, again, they're presenting to the Senate. The world can hear them. At times, the argument boiled down to, it is too early to hold this trial. You have to do more investigation to be fair to Donald Trump. And it's too late to hold this trial because ultimately he's left office. So I should amend my remarks, Brian, and say it was one part My Cousin Vinny and one part Cheshire Cat, where basically there is no logic. On the serious part, though, all shade aside, to pick up on the points you were just discussing with former prosecutor and former Senator McCaskill, Mitch McConnell made it very clear through his public leaking and through the New York Times